Am I the asshole for kicking my wife out after she punched my mom in the face? The situation went from bad to worse in a matter of a week, and I don't know where else to turn. I need to know if I was wrong. Possibly a validation thing because life is fucking dumb right now. My wife and I have been together for 8 years, and she just gave birth to our first and last baby 2 months ago. Up until my wife got pregnant, my mom loved her. I'm not sure what the fuck is going on with my mom or why the switch happened, but after my wife got pregnant, my mom started being very clingy to me and started avoiding my wife at all costs. Told everyone she wasn't excited about the pregnancy, etc. I threatened to go no contact with her when my wife was about 7 months along, and after that, she snapped out of it for the most part and stopped being so ignorant. The comments 100% stopped, at least, though she was still clinging to me. Now, a week ago, my mom, my sister's husband, and my sister's daughter, 12, came over for dinner. I prepared the meal. Before my wife could eat anything, our daughter got fussy, so my wife excused herself to go feed the baby and get her down to sleep. I thought I prepared enough, but apparently not, because my niece was still starving. Parentheses, she's 5'5" and 190 pounds. I haven't seen her in a year, and she was not that size then, so I didn't exactly portion in an extra 3 helpings for a child. So that's on me. I apologized and told her that I hadn't made any more and offered her crackers as I was putting my wife's portion into the fridge. After that, I just went outside with my sister's husband to smoke a cigarette and shoot the breeze. Didn't think anything of it. But then I hear yelling from inside. When I walk in, my wife and my mom were screaming at each other. Apparently, my mom, who saw me put my wife's food away, gave my niece my wife's portion of food. As I was walking inside, I heard my mom say, quote, "Looks like you can afford to skip a meal," and slapped my wife's stomach right as soon as I get ready to step in, literally fast walking towards them, yelling, "Enough!" My wife whines back and punches my mom square in the face and drops her. The whole house went silent outside of my mom crying and holding her face. I tell everyone to get the fuck out. Immediately, everyone leaves, and my wife just turned towards the counter and leans with her hands on the counter, face down, eyes closed. I look at my wife and say, "You too, leave now." She says, "Really?" She's crying at this point. I say a clipped, "Yep." She packs up her and the baby and leaves. I text her that night and say, "I just need space. I need to decompress and come to terms with what just happened." She doesn't respond. The next 5 days, I'm texting and calling, and I get nothing. She shows up here today, so now 8 days later, and hands me divorce paperwork and my baby and says, "Here, you have a bit to hang out with her while I pack. While I'm breastfeeding, we can work out a visitation schedule that is either at your place or my mother's until she will take a bottle." I told her, "That's not what I want. I don't want to separate. I just needed time to process her punching my mother in the face." She said, quote, "You needing time to process gave me time to process the fact that I refused to be in this situation any longer. I defended myself. I initially felt bad and remorseful, but you making me leave when I needed you made me see more clear. I'm done. I'm sorry for what I did, but there's no fixing this." She refused to speak to me at all the rest of the time she was there. My house feels so empty, and I don't know what to do. Am I the asshole for making her leave after she punched my mom? I just needed some fucking space. That little update. Okay, for the record, I am team wife. My mom deserved it wholeheartedly.
Oh.
And I've blocked her completely from my life. I literally just needed time to process what happened. My wife is a lot of things. Violent is not one of them. So this came completely out of left field and would not have happened without her being provoked. After it all happened, my mom sent me a text saying, quote, "See, I told you she was crazy. That fat bitch doesn't belong in our life."
Oh my God.
I'm willing to bet she purposefully tried setting my wife off. So now I'm on my wife's side 100%. I truly just needed to process what happened, and my wife took it as me giving up on her, not defending her, and throwing her and our baby, which did essentially happen because I knew she had to take the baby with her when I kicked her out. The reason why I needed time to process everything, my dad was stupid abusive. I was beat. My sisters and brother were beat. My mom was put in the hospital multiple times. It took years for police to enforce restraining orders, and he finally died in 2013. Well, and he does go on to say, "Violence scares the fuck out of me. I clam up and get anxious around violence of any kind now. My wife knows this, and she too grew up in a violent household. Stepdad, and she gets just as anxious and panicky around violence. Her punching my mom in the face triggered an anxious response, and I needed her gone in that moment. I needed it far away from me. I don't know why I just didn't leave. I could have, but in that moment, I just let my emotions and fear run the whole fucking circus and told everyone to get out, her included. My mom did slap her first. I guess for some reason I was seeing my wife's punch as being worse than the slap. It wasn't a hard slap, but my wife did kind of wince. Looking back on it now, she was fine following, but my mom was bleeding. Split her eyebrow open, in good shape. Thank you for all the responses. I'm the asshole. I'm going to try to go kiss ass now.
Am I wrong for putting a lien on my brother's house and refusing to remove it until he pays me? I do house renovations as a business. Even when I do work for family and friends at a discount, I have a contract. My nephews are getting bigger and they want separate rooms. My brother asked me to help him finish his basement, make a couple of rooms down there, add a washroom, add a kitchenette, and wire up a family room. I priced it out and said I would charge him $32,000 including materials. This was a sizable discount. For the bathroom alone, I would charge anyone else $15,000. He wasn't even roughed in. He never paid me. He always had excuses. I paid for the material and I paid for my guys for the work. We did it when I had downtime so I didn't lose out on other money, but it still sucked to get shafted. So I put a construction lien on the house. He didn't care and I wasn't going to make him homeless. That was 2 years ago. Now he got a job and has to move. And to get a new house, he has to sell his current house, which he can't do because there is a lien against the property. He called me to get it removed. He promised he would pay me as soon as I sold it. I told him, you, pay me. My parents called me to tell me that they would pay what he owes. I said I would agree so long as he paid them back, and if he didn't, then any money he didn't pay back had to come out of any inheritance we were getting. God forbid. And that interest started accruing from the day of the loan. They agreed that that was fair. My brother called me to scream at me for involving my parents in our inheritance. I reminded him that he involved them, not me. He finally took money out from a line of credit and paid me, with interest. I'm a reasonable man. The house sold over asking and the finished basement suite made a huge difference on what he got. He is still pissed at me for doing it, but I did everything legal and by the books.
Am I the astronaut for flipping out on my mother-in-law and husband for eating all the food before I had eaten? Ever since I gave birth 4 months ago, so I have 4 kids total, my mother-in-law has been showing up whenever she wants, and when she's here, she always helps herself to whatever she wants. She has never offered to help me or the baby in any way, shape, or form. She's basically here to see her son, and that's it. Like about 3 weeks ago, I made a small pot of coffee, enough for 2 cups. I went to go nurse the baby while waiting, and at some point, my mother-in-law shows up, lets herself inside. When I came out, she had drank the entire pot. I had no coffee grounds left. Or she's eaten my leftovers straight out of the fridge multiple times, and she'll always be like, thanks for the food or coffee, as if I offered it to her, when I absolutely didn't, because all she's doing is making my life miserable. I told my husband to speak to her about it, and he told me he did, but I truly don't think so. I spoke up the last time she was here 3 weeks ago and told her she needed to stop helping herself because she's eating and drinking stuff that I wanted and or made for myself. She said, oh, I'm sorry, and then stopped coming around for a while. Well, today I made 4 homemade pizzas. I told the kids to come help themselves to dinner and that I had to go get the baby down for a nap real quick and I'd be right back. Well, it took me like 45 minutes because the baby is fussy. She just had shots. That sucks. I come back and all the pizza is gone. And my mother-in-law and husband are sitting there chowing away. I just said, are you kidding me right now? My husband asked what was going on. And I said, you guys couldn't have left me even a slice? Sure, let's feed the neighborhood before I get to eat. That's so awesome of you guys. Thanks. And started to walk off. My oldest son, 13, comes in and he's like, Mom, I left you out a plate. I put it right here on the counter. And walks over to grab it, and lo and behold, that's gone too. Mother-in-law said, I thought it was left over from dinner. So my son's apologizing to me even though he did nothing wrong, but my mother-in-law and husband just stand there. They literally aren't saying anything. So I look at both of them and said, you both need to leave now. My husband then decides to speak, saying that it was an honest mistake and that no one meant any harm, and said I was making a mound out of a molehill, which honestly just pissed me off further. So I snapped again and said, yeah, except every time your mother comes here, I end up going without because she eats or drinks my portion of everything. But sure, let's defend someone taking food out of my mouth, shall we? The mother just storms out of the house. My husband looks at me like I'm insane. So I say, quick, chase her, and walk out. My husband thinks I'm mental and that all of this could have been resolved if I had acted like an adult. We won't come home. But at this point, I don't even want him to come home because it means his mother will stay away. That's it. That's the story. Okay, so the question was, am I the astronaut for flipping out on my mother-in-law and husband for eating all the food before I had eaten? Hell no.
Story time about when I found out that I was in a relationship with a guy that I'd never met before. So about 2 years ago, I get a DM on Instagram from this random girl. She says, "Hey Nika, I know that we're strangers, but can you please block my boyfriend on Instagram?" So I was like, okay, like what's your boyfriend's Instagram? And she sent it through and I had recognized the name. So I clicked on his profile and I realized that it's a guy from back in 2015. I went to a wedding and his cousin asked me for my number. I just want to preface the story by saying that I was brought up to be Muslim and this wedding was a Malaysian traditional wedding. Now that's an important note because of what I'm going to tell you later. Anyways, back to the messages. So basically she said that he can't move on from me and thank you so much for being cooperative. So straight off the bat, I was really confused because I hadn't talked to this guy literally since like 2015. So I just messaged her back and say, hey, just to let you know, like we were never a thing and it's okay, I blocked him. And then she just said, sorry for bothering you, thank you so much, have a great day. And that was that. And then 2 months later, I get a DM from the same girl. And the message says, hey Nika, I have a question. Do you have the time to answer? And I was like, yeah, why not? And this is where it starts getting really fucking weird. So she sends a massive paragraph, I'm talking huge. And it pretty much says that his mum can't stop talking about me and that she loves me so much and that she can't compare. And this girl is Indonesian, so her language is kind of broken. And she goes to say that she's trying really hard to get the attention and the love and the heart from the mum, but the mum keeps comparing her to me. And I've never even met this family. And she's saying things like I'm the role model and it's an injustice to ugly people and all this stuff. And I'm just like, what is going on? But then like, I'm just so confused that I just reply, are you sure that you're not getting this mixed up with someone else? It can't be me. And then she just says that it's the truth. And then I say, well, it seems really weird that someone would talk like that about me when they don't even know me. And at this point, I'm just thinking, this must be a mix-up. It can't be me. Like, I'm so confused. And then she goes on to say that she thought that we're really close and that I've got more respect than her from the mum and all this weird shit. She then says that she's going to marry him but doesn't know anymore because of what the mum keeps saying about me and she keeps talking about me and all this stuff. And I just kind of kept saying like, I don't know why they're saying this. We're not close. I don't really know them at all. Okay, so she sent a message saying, one more question, what made you leave him? Because I think we're having the same problem. And then I just say, we were never in a relationship, we were never romantic, nothing of the sort. Like, what the fuck is going on? So I was like, has he told you that? Like, where are you getting this from? And then she goes, are you serious? Like, we all know you as his ex-girlfriend. I was like, what do you mean by we? She was like, what do you mean we? It's me and his family. And then I just straight up said, he was never my boyfriend. And then she said that he said that we were together for a whole year. Are you serious? And then I just responded and I was like, look, I don't think that we've even ever met. So she was like, wow, I'm speechless. You were definitely the one that his mum said. She's even got photos of you. And I was like, look, maybe you should just have a talk with him. I don't know what's going on. She then said that he said that I had broken his heart. And then she sent me a screenshot of a photo from my Instagram that the mum had screenshotted and sent her. Anyways, now she's kind of getting the gist that we were never a thing and that he lied. So she was like, he's a liar, blah, 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 and all that. So then I was like, are you telling him this? Like, are you telling him what I'm saying, that it's not true? And then she was like, no, like, I don't want to embarrass him, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. And at this point, I was starting to get really annoyed by him because he's obviously lied to this girl and lied to his family. And yeah, it just put me in a weird situation. So then I messaged her back and said he should feel embarrassed because he's made up a whole relationship with someone that he doesn't even know. And then she was like, look, I know it doesn't make any sense, but he can describe your body, your height, everything about you. Then she sends me a screenshot of a conversation between her and his mum. And this is where it gets really fucking fucked up. So in these screenshots, the mum is talking about me and saying that she's a nice girl, but she's wild. She knows that she's pretty. And this is the comment that really gets me. The mum says she's not shy with her body and says that I said that he can change me. I'm sorry, but I do not want to be changed, honey. So So she keeps sending these screenshots through and they keep getting weirder and weirder. There was one that said that they can't listen to a Rihanna song in the house because I used to sing it to him on the phone. Now, I haven't heard from her or him since, so I'm just living my life.
I refused to do my cousin's graduation makeup and this left me homeless. Story time. After the death of my mother, my only surviving parent, I moved in with my uncle in the Copper Belt. He lived with his wife and his one daughter. They also had a son, but this son was the wife's child. When I got to my uncle's house, I was promised to go to school and I was promised that life would continue as usual, just like when I lived with my mother. This was my mother's young brother. But when I got to his house, the story was different. I wasn't taken to school. A female and male cousin, whom I found at my uncle's place, his children, they went to school. They went to university, and for me, I was always left out. So I was told I couldn't go to school because there was no one to remain home and take care of the house chores. So as my friends went to school, I was home the whole time. I moved in with my uncle when I was about 15. I was supposed to be in grade 11 at this time. I ended my education in grade 11, so I never went to school after that. From the time that my mother died, I didn't go back to school. The reason I was given is that I had to stay home and take care of the house chores, that there was no one else to do them because my aunt was a working mom and my uncle also had a full-time job. I was left home alone and I had to make lunch for my cousins who were at school and I had to take it to them during lunch hour, which was usually around 13. If my memory serves me right. It was at 13, I would have to take their lunch. I was basically the mini mom at home. It would click here and there that I'm missing out on school. Every time I brought it up with my uncle, my auntie would always tell my uncle that if I go to school, who would remain home and do the house chores. So my uncle always refrained from this conversation. As the days went on, I realized I was missing out on a lot of things in terms of my education, and I knew life here in Zambia is highly dependent on your level of education. Not always, but I knew if I was educated, life would be easier for me. So I chose to acquire a skill, but then I didn't have the money to pay for anything. So when I moved to the Copper Belt, I had met a friend who was my neighbor, and her mom was about to open a salon. But then she didn't have anyone she could be living there while she went for work. So this salon was just near her home. I told her if she can get me as her shopkeeper that she was looking for at the salon, I could stay there during the day after my house chores that I was instructed to do. I could stay there during the day and just take care of the shop generally for her. So this was the agreement. I was very nervous to tell my uncle about it, that I had found a job. But luckily he said it was fine as long as I have done all the house chores at home. So the deal was that I do all the house chores. Lunch hour, I need to make sure his kids have food. So what I started doing is I would wake up early in the morning before my cousins left for school. I would make sure I have already packed their lunch so that they would carry it. During the day, instead of just being home, I started going to the salon. So at the salon, the services that they provided was things like hairstyling, plating, and then eventually they had a makeup artist that came on board. And this is where my whole story began. Whilst at the salon, the makeup artist was a really sweet lady. So I would usually look at what she was doing. Same for hairstyling. I would look at what everyone was doing at the salon. My job wasn't to plait or anything. My job was to take care of my aunt's shop. So I used to call her my aunt, despite her being my friend's mom, because she was very good to me. So I eventually started calling her aunt, and that was the name that was embedded in me. So she became my auntie like that. So I would look at what the makeup artist was doing, what the hairstylist was doing, and eventually, when we got a lot of clients, I also started helping. Just like that, I was learning. Little by little, I was learning. So eventually, I became good at the craft as well. So I also became an active hairstylist. For me, I loved the hairstyling and the makeup. So I also became an assistant hairstylist for the official hairstylist, as well as an assistant makeup artist for the official makeup artist that we had in the shop. So as time went on, the salon began running losses because people were now diverting into social media, and my aunt didn't really incorporate social media because she was an elderly lady. And at that time on the Copper Belt, it wasn't really a thing to advertise businesses on social media. But as more saloons were coming on the scene, people started using social media. So she lost out on a lot of business. So it meant that I eventually lost my job. I was back to square one. But then this job was really helpful for me because it helped me buy small things like sanitary towels for myself, some clothes. Because at my uncle's place, they did the bare minimum for me. I appreciate what they did, but all they did for me was just to provide shelter, even before I had this job. When I lost my job, life became tough for me because at this point, I saw my friends going to uni, people that I was supposed to graduate my senior secondary with. They graduated at this point and they were going to uni. So life became really hard for me. But luckily, I was a super active kid growing up. I had a lot of financial discipline, knowing where I was coming from. So I saved up some money. So from my savings, I started buying just some fake makeup products like Kiss Beauty products, green tea. I think at that time there was this green tea powder. I bought that. I bought some fake brushes. And I think at that point we had beauty blenders. I bought a few things and I started playing in makeup at home. I started playing in makeup and it would make me happy. It became my safe haven. So after doing the house shows at home, I would get bored and just sit and play in makeup. So eventually my craft started getting good. I would post my work on my Facebook, on my personal Facebook, because at that point I didn't even think I needed a page or anything. I didn't believe I was that good. So I would post my work on my page on Facebook, and from there, like, my friends would like the work. People would just, just comment good stuff, and those comments really kept me going. So I started thinking I could build a brand and a business around this idea. I started slowly building a business around my passion for makeup, and it was growing. I had friends coming over to do their makeup, but no one serious, no adults. So it was still jokes, but deep down I knew this is what I wanted to develop. So people would come, my friends would play like that, I would do their makeup with the few products that I had. I don't want to drag my uncles or my aunt or my cousins into this, but the treatment I received while I lived with them was bad, for lack of a better term, but I don't want to discuss much about it. So we'll keep it at that. But I was receiving no type of help except food, which was just the bare minimum food. Like, I would eat after everyone is done eating. I knew life could be better than that because I had lived with my mother and my life was definitely better than that. It was a big move for me. So I knew I had to develop a business. So fast forward to 4 years later, people start graduating. My friends are graduating, my cousins are graduating as well. Bear in mind that this cousin of mine, the female, we were around the same age. So the time she was graduating, I would have graduated at the same time. So you know how graduation goes. You get ready, you're doing your graduation preps, you're excited, you're buying clothes. And honestly, I understood being kept was enough. So I tried my best not to feel entitled to my uncle's help, especially in terms of like education, since it was clear he wasn't going to give it to me. So I tried my best not to feel entitled to that. So my cousin's graduation was coming up. She was preparing. She was very excited. I think they traveled to Lusaka once to look for an outfit because my uncle was actually doing very well. Her graduation became, obviously, your first daughter is graduating. So it became like the conversation in the house. So she prepares for her graduation, obviously you need someone to do your makeup and hair. So she books a salon. According to her, they don't take appointments. They do walk-ins. According to her, where she wanted to get her hair and makeup done, they don't do appointments. They just do walk-ins. So at this point, I'm also like growing my craft. I have gotten a few clients. So some of my friends who are graduating at this point had booked me because my craft was getting fairly good, actually. So my friends had booked me, but the condition at home was if I get any clients, I didn't have to do their makeup inside the house. I always had to attend to my clients outside. I got bookings for that day of the graduation. This graduation was on a Friday. So I got bookings. My friends had booked. So I knew these are the only people that I was going to be working on. Everything is booked. We're waiting for graduation day. On graduation day, my cousin goes to her appointment where she's supposed to get her stuff done. And I also receive my clients at home. So we had a garage where I used to work from. So my clients sit in the garage and we start working. They come quite early because these graduations, they usually start like at 8. Yeah. So they come quite early. We start with their work. As a small makeup artist, this meant my day was fully booked. I hadn't yet developed that speed, so I was still very, very slow. While I'm into my booking, my cousin shows up. Just a little backstory. In the morning, my cousin had left to go for her appointment because this appointment was very time sensitive since her graduation was early in the morning. So she had to show up for her graduation makeup very early so she could beat the queue. I think a few hours into my appointment, I still have, I think, about 3 more girls to work on. She shows up. Oh, I don't ask much because, I'm working. Neither does she say anything to me. So I see her go inside the house. She looks frustrated, but I don't pay much attention to it because I'm working again. A few minutes later, my aunt comes out and tells me, "Can you start with her makeup?" Bear in mind, I'm working on someone who's a paying client at this point. So I tell them, I'll start as soon as I'm done with her, because her, meaning the girl I'm working on. Because remember, these are paying clients. I just can't say, "Oh no, leave my chair," because now my cousin wants to do her makeup. So I told my aunt, "No, okay, give me a few minutes. Let me finish with these girls." I think I had 3 girls at that point. Let me finish with the 3, then I can start with her makeup. So my aunt gets upset saying, "No, you can't finish with them. Can you start with her? Don't you see that your friend is running late?" So one of my friends answers on my behalf because they know how my aunt is. So my friend says, "No, auntie, we've paid for this, so she has to work on us first." At this point, my aunt is very pissed off with me. My friend is also upset with my aunt because why do they want to take up their appointment? And they're also rushing. So tempers are really rising at this point. So a few minutes later, my aunt goes in and comes out. She's preceded by my uncle. I see my uncle and he tells me, "No, you have to do her makeup right now. She's rushing. She has to go for her graduation. Can't show her new reform no I miss a graduation." So I'm like, but then I can only do if she's going to pay. Let me finish up quickly with these guys. Nadam chita makeup yako. They just storm out because my friends are also saying, "We won't leave the chair. We have to get our makeup done. We booked her. You guys booked elsewhere. So you guys are the ones who are disappointed, not us." So they refuse to leave. I'm in a fix. So I start doing my friend's makeup. And luckily, I try to rush and I'm done. Though my cousin is late for her graduation, I still managed to do her makeup. I thought the day is done. I was actually not allowed to attend her graduation because, again, I'm the person who remains at home to do all the house chores. People go for the graduation. They enjoy themselves. As usual, I was left home. So they enjoy themselves. And when they are back, my uncle calls me to say he wants to talk to me. So I just realized that though my aunt was almost always upset with me all the time, but this day it was worse. And I knew it was from the earlier altercation that she had with my friends and partly me, though I didn't really answer anything bad, but she exchanged a few words with my friends and I also refused to stop doing my friends' makeup. So I'm suspecting this is the reason. So my uncle calls me in the sitting room. My cousin comes there as well. She's also not talking to me this day. Well, we never used to talk much, but this day was worse. She wasn't talking to me at all. When he calls me to the sitting room, he starts to tell me how I'm very wicked for not wanting their child to graduate. That's one. So I don't defend myself because I've gotten used to him shouting at me. I got used to it such that I wasn't responding. So he tells me I have a bad heart for not wanting my cousin to graduate. I was trying to ruin her day. Yeah, so I'm just listening in because you're talking about not wanting your daughter to graduate and I'm not even graduating at all. The little skill I have, you want to take away my clients like that. First of all, I'm not even allowed to have my clients in the house. I'm always forced to do my clients from outside. I do all face beats from outside. All my face beats. I can't connect my ring lights anywhere. Nothing. And at this point, I managed to save enough money to buy a few of these fancy things that I would need for my appointments. He tells me how I'm bad-hearted, I don't want her to graduate. And then he actually tells me we can't continue living with someone who's got bad intentions for us. So this is getting scary for me. Like, what do you mean I have bad intentions for people in the household that I live in? Not to defend myself, but I would appreciate the fact that they kept me when I had nowhere else to go. But them talking about all these bad intentions, it was weird for me. So I'm just listening. So he tells me, I think you've grown since now. Kari business, you need empangire mpia. yakwati mambo okufira okupenta abapanganda, you can move out. So what he's basically saying is, since you're now making money and your business is flourishing such that you don't even want to attend to your own relatives' makeup when you know she's running late for her graduation, please leave the house.